Greetings my lovelies, and thank you for stopping by the circle today. This week's video might be a little bit long, but I really do need to because it is talking about sort of a shift in the content of this channel. So for the past couple of years now, I have been pretty much giving out writing advice while reviewing books and things of that nature. And honestly, I've kind of reached the end of what I think I can do for writing advice because I just completed the last video of my writing process segment. And you can find out the whole playlist up here where I walk you through the creative writing process from conception of an idea all the way to its release. So needless to say, I'm a little bit burnt out on writing help. So I wanted to take a little bit of break from it, but I still wanted to provide other content that's not just book reviews. So this is what I came up with. Now, I don't know if it's just me or if it's a widespread problem, but I've run into a lot of issues with books where I feel like the characters weren't necessarily developed or thought out or anything of that nature. So I decided to do a deep dive into some of the popular characters in books, TV shows, anime, whatever, what have you. But before I do that, we need to talk a little bit about some of the things that I'm going to be analyzing in these characters, and the main thing is archetypes. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Now you guys might be wondering what exactly is an archetype, and it's something that was created by Carl Jung, who's a psychologist, and I love psychology by the way. In a nutshell, it's an emotion and a type of person or an event that is universal across all humanity, regardless of your age, your gender, your culture, your religion, what have you, it's all gonna be the same. But before we go into any further talking about what an archetype is, I feel like it's important to talk about what it's not. So an archetype is not the same thing as a stereotype, because a stereotype is a simplified version of a person or group of people. This is where we get a lot of racism. This is where we get a lot of like the cliche cliques type of things that you always see in media when it comes to teens. But stereotypes aren't always bad. Sometimes they can be kind of good stereotypes, like children and nuns are innocent type of things. Dog people are friendly, where cat people are a little bit more reclusive. But they're not exactly true and don't really fit into the multifaceted thing that people are, and it just leaves everyone kind of one-dimensional, which we know that's not true. Similarly, archetypes are not cliches. And cliches are things that are just done so much that you can predict them and they're boring, like they don't provide anything new. Case in point, always killing off the hero's love interest or the female in his family, see woman in fridge trope, to give him motivation to do something. It's boring, it's contrite, it's stupid. Can we please stop that? Now, the reason why sometimes people kind of confuse archetypes, stereotypes, and cliches is that, yes, archetypes are universally known. We kind of know what to expect when someone falls into a certain archetype. However, archetypes do allow for a bit of flexibility in what they are. Because an archetype is neither good nor evil, it's just how the person reacts and their role in the story. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to the 12 archetypes. So the first one I want to talk about is the lover. Everyone's favorite, but it's not really what you think. It's not the saucy little minx who is a love interest, although it can be that. The lover is someone who typically thinks with their heart versus their head. Some positive traits that this type of character may have is that they are compassionate, loving, caring. They will do what they need to for those that they love. However, that means that they can be a bit naive and irrational, because we all know emotions make no sense. The lover also, while they can be romantic, they don't necessarily have to be. They could be friends, they could be family, just kind of anyone that serves that emotional core. Perfect examples of this would be Belle from Beauty and the Beast. She is someone who leads with her heart versus her head. Romeo and Juliet, and that's on the negative side effect of where you let your emotions take control of your life without any actual logical thought. And before anyone asks me, Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy, not a love story, and not something you should really try to have. Archetype number 2, the hero. This is the one that we are most commonly familiar with. They have courage and honor and the drive to do what is right. But they can be kind of an asshole and just, very narrow-minded in what they try to pursue. Typical examples of these: Luke, Wonder Woman, Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Harry Potter. All those are classic hero tropes. Well, archetypes. Number 3. The Magician. The Magician is someone who uses the powers of the universe to achieve a goal. This character is someone who can be driven. They can seem like they know everything in the universe. However, on the flip side of things, they are easily corruptible. Case in point, Sauron and Gandalf. Both of these characters fall into the Magician archetype. They're wizards in the literal sense. However, Saruman, is corrupted by his power, where Gandalf is not and uses it for the betterment of the world. Number 4, the outlaw. This is someone who lives outside of society's norms. These are typically the fun characters, the ones that we typically fall in love with the most if you have issues. They're independent, they're virtuous, they live by the beat of their own drum. However, they sometimes can be a little self-involved, only worrying about themselves, not really allowing other people to get close, and they typically function outside the law. So the outlaws can be morally gray or do things that really kind of make us uncomfortable. Perfect examples of this would be Mal from Firefly, Batman, Robin Hood in the classical sense, robbing from the rich to give to the poor, that whole type of shebang. Number 5, the explorer. This is the person who wants to push beyond the boundaries to know what is beyond the horizon. They are curious and self-driven and have this innate wonder for the world. However, sometimes they can be over-righteous, unreachable, and just kind of cut off from everything else that's going on around them. Case in point, Arya Stark. She is very much an explorer. She's always wanted to go beyond and see what else was there out there. What else could she be? But that typically kind of made her a little bit selfish and kind of a bitch at times. Then we have Sherlock, who's always looking for the next big thing, the next wonder, the next thing to stimulate his mind, and we all know what he's like. And then classically we have Odysseus, who is a traveler who's always more curious about what's going on than getting home. Number 6 is the sage. Now the sage is someone that your hero character or whoever you have is going to come to get some advice from. Typically this type of thing falls to a mother-like figure, but not always. These characters have the wisdom, they have the insight, they know what it's like to be in that position, and they can tell you what they wish that they had known in that same situation. However, these characters typically don't play an active role in anything, and they don't really like to get involved. They don't want to make the waves, or they're a little bit cautious because they don't want to tell you something that's going to hurt your feelings. Case in point, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a great sage. He has nuggets of wisdom that he likes to drop, but not always exact. He won't tell you it in plain terms. Also, Uncle Iroh is another good example from this. And typically this sage is someone that the hero or whoever the protagonist is of the story has to go find. And need I remind you guys of the turtle from Neverending Story? I am still traumatized by that to this day. Number 7, the innocent. These are typically children or someone who is not corrupted by the waves of the world. They're kind, loving characters, but they don't know much about the world, and they also don't have a lot of skill. They're just kind of there. Case in point, Tiny Tim. He's an innocent. And they're mostly there just to tug on the heartstrings. They're the Hufflepuffs, the archetype community. Number 8, the creator. This is the person who is driven to make things, pretty much as the name says. They're creative, they have the conviction that what they are doing will help the world. However, they can be single-minded in pursuit of their desires, as well as lacking basic function skills. Case in point, Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Oh my goodness, that man. And even Iron Man would kind of fall, Tony Stark would fall into this category because he is a creator. He likes to make the Iron Man suits, but socially, like as an emotional adult, he is severely stunted. Number 9, the ruler. I really don't feel like I need to explain this one. This is just someone who has power over other people. They are the ones that are in charge of things. They're the ones that are responsible for making sure that everyone gets what they need. They have the resources, they have the status to get what they need to get done. However, because they're in such a high position, they tend to be cut off from the people that are actually supposed to help, and they can tend to come off as aloof because they know that they have to sacrifice things for the greater good. So they are very much in the mind, whereas a lover is very much in the heart. This is someone like Voldemort and Darth Vader. They both want to be rulers, and they both fall into the ruler category, but they're dark and twisted creatures that love nothing more than just to hurt everyone. Number 10 is the caregiver. Again, a very simplistic one. This is one who does provide care for people. Typically, this is a female role, but we are seeing kind of a rise of men falling into this caregiver role in literature, and that is just awesome. These people are kind, they're loyal, however, their whole world revolves around the care of other people. And I cannot think of a character that fits this any better than Toru Honda from Fruits Basket. Because she is such a people pleaser, and all she wants to do is take care of people and make them happy, oftentimes at the cost of her own happiness. We also have characters like Samuel Tarly, Mary Poppins, Hagrid from Harry Potter. All of these fall into the caregiver role. However, I must add that this, while typically is a positive trope, it can also be negative. Mother Gothel. She is such an evil caregiver. And I'm also suddenly being reminded of Mercy from that Stephen King novel. Oh my goodness, that lady was crazy. Nuts! I mean, who steals their favorite author and bashes their legs in when they don't write the story the way that you want it, but yet they make you soup? Number 11, I can't hold up fingers for this one. The everyday man. This is the one where most of us would fall into if we were ever written into a universe. They are just your everyday Joe Schmo who goes along with their life completely happy and normal. However, they are completely ill-prepared for the shitstorm that's coming their way. And in all honesty, only really two characters kind of pop into my mind right off the bat, and that is Bilbo Baggins from The Hobbit and Jacob Kowalski from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Bilbo is a typical little hobbit. He's just happy to eat, drink, and smoke his pipe, and then he just gets tossed into this wonderful story. And he learns a lot of things along the way, of course, but he starts out as an everyday man. Jacob Kowalski is a muggle in like the most sense. And he is just thrown into this world and it's just like, okay, I'm gonna roll with this. And number 12 is the jester or trickster. It kind of depends on what you're looking at. I saw it referred as both ways. And these are basically people that play pranks. You know, they're funny, they're just there. They can also be kind of obnoxious and annoying and assholes. Now, 9 times out of 10, they typically fall into like the comedic relief role to keep light and brevity into like traumatic stories. But that's not always the case. I mean, God, look at Loki. He's not exactly a light and fluffy type of guy, but he is definitely a trickster, and his one-liners are hilarious, I'm not gonna lie. But they also don't have to be like overly ha 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 funny like Austin Powers, who is very much a trickster comedian type character. It can also be someone who's just, I really don't know any other way to explain them, just an absolute imbecile. And we laugh at their misfortunes and their, you know, not really comprehending of the situation. Looking at you, C-3PO. But they can also just be light characters who enjoy having fun, like Fred and George Weasley. So there you have it. Those are the 12 main archetypes. Now, the one thing that I do like about them is that you can have one character that can fit into multiple archetypes. I'm going to use Star Wars because it's what I'm kind of most familiar with because I'm like obsessed with it. But Obi-Wan Kenobi can fall into the magician. He can fall into the sage. He can even fall into the caregiver role and given at certain times of his story. Whereas Darth Vader is also a magician, but he's also a ruler. And an outlaw because he started out wanting to push beyond what the Jedi Order was allowing him to do. So now that we have a firm-ish understanding of what archetypes are, that means I have the go-ahead and start diving into my characters. Because I really am excited about this because I've been hoping that by doing this and talking about other characters, we can learn to develop more rich, complex, layered characters that we could just eat up. So, if you have any characters that you would love for me to talk about, research, and break down to their cores, good and bad, leave a comment down below and let me know. So that is all that I have for you today, and I will see you next time. Bye.